Welcome back to Boss View, where we break down the latest political developments. In today's video, we're taking a closer look at why the Democratic Party, and more specifically Kamala Harris, lost the 2024 U.S. presidential election. It wasn't just a loss due to policy disagreements. It was a perfect storm of discontent with both the party's leadership and their perceived failure to connect with voters. Let's dive into the factors that led to their downfall and explore the actual data behind this significant loss. While much of the media's focus in the aftermath of the election centered around Donald Trump's win, the real story for the Democrats is rooted in the growing discontent with Vice President Kamala Harris and the party as a whole. As the election neared, it became increasingly clear that voters were not thrilled with the Democratic leadership. Kamala Harris, who was seen as a potential successor to Biden, failed to energize voters in a meaningful way. According to exit polls from Pew Research, Harris's approval rating among the general public stood at just 38% heading into the election, a dramatic drop from her previous 2020 approval of 48%. Harris faced significant backlash from moderate Democrats, with 42% of voters in swing states like Pennsylvania and Michigan stating they viewed her unfavorably. This was particularly evident among Black and Latino voters, traditionally a core part of the Democratic base, who were underwhelmed by Harris's performance and political agenda. As the election cycle progressed, the divide between Harris and the public grew more pronounced. The 2024 race was not just about discontent with Harris, it was also about broader dissatisfaction with the Democratic Party's direction. Data from a survey by the Data for Progress group found that 56% of voters believed that the Democratic Party was out of touch with the needs of ordinary Americans, especially in key swing states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Arizona. The push for progressive policies, including heavy federal spending, increased regulation, and a focus on social justice issues over economic concerns, alienated large segments of the electorate. This created a void of trust, especially among working class and middle-income voters who were previously loyal to the party. The final blow to the Democratic campaign came during the presidential debate, where Joe Biden delivered a performance that many considered catastrophic. With the pressure mounting, Biden's performance under the spotlight exposed the growing concerns about his age, stamina, and mental sharpness. During the debate, Biden struggled with coherence and clarity on several key policy issues. He had multiple moments where he seemed disoriented, and his responses were often disconnected from the points being made by his opponents. At one point, Biden had a lengthy pause during a critical question about healthcare reform, which led to concerns about his ability to handle the pressures of a second term. This performance didn't just harm Biden, it tarnished the entire Democratic brand. His lackluster debate performance sparked a wave of media criticism and calls for him to step down. According to a post-debate survey by Navigator Research, 68% of Democratic voters in key battleground states expressed doubts about Biden's capacity to lead the party through another term. As a result, the party faced intense pressure to replace Biden with a stronger candidate. Among these voters, there was a significant rise in support for a candidate change, with 42% saying they were ready for the party to endorse someone else, even if it meant Kamala Harris stepping up. This, of course, was compounded by the fact that Harris, who many saw as the next in line, was already struggling to win over voters. It became clear that the party was deeply fractured, and its leadership was seen as out of touch with the electorate. As the election moved into the final stretch, key voter groups began to defect from the Democratic camp. Particularly alarming trend for the party was the discontent among younger voters. Traditionally, young voters have leaned heavily Democratic, but in 2024, we saw a major shift toward conservatism. According to Circle's youth poll, Trump's support among young voters, 18 to 34, jumped by 12%, going from 36% in 2020 to 48% in 2024. This shift was particularly evident among young male voters, who were drawn to Trump's strong stance on law and order, economic opportunities, and family values. Similarly, minority groups, especially Hispanic voters, who had been reliable Democratic voters in the past, also shifted. Trump's focus on economic empowerment and his stance on immigration resonated with these voters, particularly in Florida, where Trump secured 56% of the Hispanic vote in 2024, up from 49% in 2020. This shift was critical because it reflected not just a cultural divide, but also a trust issue. Voters felt that the Democratic Party had failed to live up to their promises, particularly regarding job creation, wages, and immigration reform. while Biden's poor debate performance was a catalyst. The leadership vacuum within the Democratic Party also played a critical role in the party's downfall. Kamala Harris, as the vice president and the presumptive successor, faced immense pressure to unite the party. However, her inability to connect with key voter groups and her lack of political effectiveness ultimately weakened her position. Harris's approval rating, as mentioned earlier, was 38%, which was significantly lower than that of Biden, who, despite his struggles, maintained an approval of around 43% leading up to the election. Her efforts to energize the base fell flat, and many saw her as an unqualified candidate, particularly after her failed performance on the national stage during the debates. Harris's lack of clear messaging also hurt her standing, as many voters felt she was trying too hard to appease progressive factions without reaching out to the moderates. Voters were disillusioned with the Democratic establishment, which was compounded by Harris's inability to present a clear vision for the future of the country. Another factor that contributed to the Democratic Party struggles in the 2024 election was Kamala Harris's handling of media engagements. While the media is a critical tool for any candidate, Harris's performances on some key platforms were less than stellar, and her failure to connect with a broader audience only deepened voter discontent. One significant example was her appearance on The View. In a high-profile interview, Harris failed to provide clear, direct answers to several key questions. When asked about issues such as crime, inflation, and immigration, she often deflected, providing vague responses that did not resonate with the concerns of everyday voters. This evasiveness led many to feel that Harris lacked the leadership qualities needed to govern the country in times of crisis. Viewers were left frustrated, asking themselves whether the administration even understood the problems facing ordinary Americans. Even more telling was Harris's refusal to appear on Joe Rogan's podcast, a popular platform with millions of listeners, including many from key swing states. While Donald Trump appeared on Rogan's show, drawing a massive audience, Harris's team chose to forego the opportunity entirely. This decision was seen as dismissive of potential voters, particularly independent and conservative-leaning youth, who are key demographics for any candidate looking to sway the vote in tight races. By avoiding a conversation with one of the most influential podcasters, Harris missed the chance to directly connect with millions of potential voters who might have felt disconnected from the establishment political narrative. This decision, along with others, painted a picture of a candidate who was out of touch with the needs of the American public. It wasn't just about her inability to offer concrete answers on critical issues. It was about her failure to engage in real, direct conversations with the voters who mattered most. By not meeting audiences where they were, whether through interviews on popular platforms or by separating herself from the current administration, Harris lost a crucial opportunity to change the narrative around her candidacy. Ultimately, the 2024 election was lost not just due to a discontent with Kamala Harris, but with the Democratic Party's overall leadership. The fractured nature of the party, combined with Biden's failure to deliver during the debate and Harris's inability to energize the base, set the stage for Trump's victory. This election showed that the Democratic Party was not only out of touch with voters, but also lacked the political coherence needed to lead in a moment of extreme division. It wasn't just about Harris. It was about a party that couldn't offer the clear, strong leadership that the country needed in 2024. What do you think about the loss of the Democratic Party in 2024? Was it all about Kamala Harris, or did the party's leadership fail at a deeper level? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.